Welcome to Walrus Wired today. We're talking about Hadi Awang's recent declarations regarding youthful leadership and his own non-candidacy for prime minister. This isn't just about one politician's personal decision, is it? It feels like it points to something potentially bigger within Perikatan Nasional.
That's right. It signals a possible shift, or at least a conversation about shifting, how leadership is viewed and selected in the coalition. We need to look at what these statements might mean for the political landscape here in Malaysia.
Right. And the big question we're kind of wrestling with is whether this is a genuine push for, generational change, or if there's maybe a more strategic angle for the next election.
Exactly. Our aim here is to unpack that, look at the implications critically. We're not taking sides, just exploring what this could signify for the parties and, importantly, for you as a voter.
Okay, so let's jump straight into the main headline. Hadi Awang has stated very clearly, very explicitly, that he won't be prime minister if Perikatan Nasional wins the 16th general election. That's quite something coming from a leader of his standing. What's your initial take on that?
It is significant, no doubt. And his reasoning is tied directly to age. He's basically said anyone over 70 isn't really suitable for the top job anymore. He suggests maybe an advisory role is better for that age group. And we should remember, he himself is 78.
Right, 78. So he's putting himself firmly in that category.
Precisely. And while he frames it personally, it immediately sets a kind of public benchmark within Perikatan Nasional. It says, I'm stepping back based on this principle, which naturally opens up discussions about who comes next, about succession. It throws the spotlight onto the internal dynamics.
And he does talk about the sheer demands of the prime minister role, the physical and mental toll, which makes sense. But thinking beyond him personally, what does it really mean when a major leader draws such a clear line based on age? How does that potentially change things inside the coalition?
Well, when a leader like that voluntarily steps aside, citing age, it effectively forces the coalition to confront that question. Who does fit the bill? It's not just a personal preference anymore. It becomes a stated criterion. This could, rally support around younger figures, or possibly it could expose some fault lines if there isn't consensus on who those founds are.
It really signals a deliberate push for a change at the very top.
A generational shift, potentially.
And he's quite specific about the qualities needed. He used the words energetic, young, and capable.
Yes, that phrase stood out. A clear call for vitality and leadership.
So, if the path is being cleared for younger leaders, the next obvious question is, how does Perikatan Nasional actually plan to choose this person?
Right. And according to Hadi Awang, the main focus for both Parti Islam Si Malaysia and Perikatan Nasional right now is purely on winning GE16. That's priority number one. The actual selection of who would be prime minister, he says, that happens after they secure a mandate. It would be decided collectively, internally by the alliance members.
Okay, so win first, then decide the leader. That's an interesting strategy. What are the pros and cons of doing it that way, especially thinking about the voters?
Well, from the coalition's perspective, it can be quite advantageous internally. You avoid potentially divisive leadership battles before the election. Everyone can focus on the common goal winning. It gives them flexibility, too. They can see the political lay of the land after the results are in, before making the final call.
But for voters?
That's the other side of the coin. It creates a degree of uncertainty, doesn't it? You're essentially voting for a coalition, a platform, but not for a specific individual to lead the government. The power to choose the PM effectively shifts from the ballot box more towards the internal party negotiations post-election.
Yeah, that makes it harder to know exactly who you might end up with at the top. So for you listening, what are your thoughts on that? Voting for a coalition without knowing up front who their pick for prime minister is. Does that feel right, or does it benefit the parties more than the voter?
It's definitely a trade-off. They're banking on internal unity being strong enough to make that choice smoothly after the fact. It implies a lot of trust in their own processes.
Now, alongside this call for younger leadership, Hadi Awang also talked about the talent within Parti Islam Si Malaysia itself. He mentioned a deep pool of people with strong religious academic backgrounds, professionals, people with administrative experience.
Yes, and this connects to his idea of collective leadership. This seems quite central to his thinking. He's proposing a model where future leaders combine the, let's say, wisdom of experienced politicians with the specific skills of technical experts in the cabinet.
Okay, collective leadership. How would that actually work in practice here?
Well, one mechanism you mentioned was appointing experts as senators. That way, they can be brought into cabinet roles even if they aren't elected politicians.
So bringing in outside expertise directly into the cabinet.
Exactly. It's not an entirely new concept, using senators for cabinet posts, but framing it under this collective leadership banner gives it a specific flavor. It suggests a more structured integration of technocrats.
Could that genuinely make governance stronger? Or could it just make decision-making more complicated, with too many cooks, so to speak?
That's the key question, isn't it? In theory, diverse expertise could lead to better policy. But managing those different perspectives, bridging the gap between political considerations and purely technical advice, that would be the challenge.
And how does this mesh with the call for energetic young leaders? Are the appointed experts also meant to be young, or is this where the seasoned wisdom comes in?
It seems like it could be a mix. The idea might be to have younger elected politicians leading, but supported by a cabinet that includes these appointed professionals, who might bring years of experience regardless of their age. So it broadens the pool of potential contributors to governance beyond just the elected MPs. It's an interesting blend of youth and experience, potentially.
A hybrid model, perhaps? Okay, beyond the structure and the talent, Hadi Awang also brought in a very strong spiritual dimension to leadership. He really emphasized that being a leader isn't about status or power grabs. He framed it as a profound religious duty, a sacred vow even.
Yes, this is absolutely core to the ideology of Party Islam See Malaysia and his own perspective. He talked about Islamic teachings, the promise of great reward for leaders who are just and diligent, but also severe warnings about accountability if they fail in their duties.
That adds a whole different layer of pressure, you could say.
It does. He noted that this heavy sense of religious responsibility actually makes many reluctant to seek leadership roles. They might prefer, as he put it, a backseat because the stakes from that perspective are so incredibly high.
So it reframes the whole motivation. It's not ambition in the usual sense, but fulfilling a trust.
Exactly. It's seen as a trust from God, not just a mandate from the people, though that's part of it too.
And flowing from that, he described the kind of leader needed. Someone devoted to God with integrity, someone connected to the people on the ground, focused on practical work.
It's a specific moral and operational template for leadership. It's not just about political maneuvering, it's about piety and service.
So how might this religious framing of leadership resonate across Malaysia? It's obviously central to his party's base, but what about the wider electorate?
Well, that's a crucial point. For those who share that deep religious conviction, this vision of leadership can be very powerful and appealing. It speaks to a desire for moral governance. For others, it might raise questions about the role of religion in public administration in a multi-religious country like ours. How does that translate into policy for everyone?
Right. It defines the kind of governance Perikatan Nasional aims for, one where religious accountability is paramount.
Precisely. It tells you a lot about their fundamental approach, placing that moral and spiritual dimension right at the heart of political leadership.
So wrapping up, Hadi Awang's recent statements offer a pretty detailed picture. A vision for leadership in Perikatan Nasional focusing on youth, on a collective, expert-informed approach, and deeply rooted in religious duty. It certainly gives us, and you, a lot to think about regarding the future direction of politics here. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.